Plastic Commander here, and today we got a very special edition of Top 5s for you. So, in one of our last Top 5 videos, and one of our most popular videos, we talked about the Top 5 most useless Army Men. So, Army Men such as the Minesweeper and the, I've had a lot to drink since then. We're going to be looking at the opposite end of that spectrum at the top 5 most useful plastic Army Men. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at some of the first Army Men we made sure to send to our pretend battlefields first. So starting off our countdown at number 5, we are going to have to go with the binoculars guy. So you may be thinking, Clay, I know that you are not taking your medication because if you were, for one, these videos would not be nearly as funny, and two, you wouldn't think the binoculars guy would be useful. And I'm going to have to disagree with you there. It's not the fact I'm not medicated at all that makes me funny. It's what's on the inside that counts. And secondly, the binoculars guy is a pretty useful gentleman, if you really think about it, because one of the most important things that you can do on a battlefield is gather information, scout ahead, and this guy is doing that for you. Not to mention the fact he's also looking out, you know, ahead of you. If you pair him up with the radio guy, then he could be giving some direction to the battlefield way ahead, looking out ahead of what you may be looking at if you're a rifleman on the front line. Not only that, but he's good to be paired up with the mortar guy as well. He can help out artillery. There's so many instances where you use the binoculars guy, and I remember growing up, there was always a place on my battlefields for at least one guy with a set of binoculars. So, number 5, the binoculars guy. Pretty useful. So, coming into our number 4 spot, we are going to have the mortar guy and the bazooka guy. So, I'm kind of doing a little bit of a cheat here, because primarily these are 2 different figures. However, I'm roping them together because they're both in the category of small arms artillery, as in artillery that just one guy can carry. So, these guys are pretty useful, and I always make sure to pair them up on the battlefields, you know, when I was growing up, because I don't play with these. You know, I don't play with Army Men. You know, I'm an adult. I'm an adult. I don't play with them. But yeah, these guys are really, really useful. And I always made sure to keep them on the battlefield because they're good for taking out tanks, pillboxes, machine gun nests, other vehicles. You know, hey, sometimes you could just take the bazooka guy, aim him at one person who may be tied up, and just blow him up. Wouldn't that be funny and not a war crime? But anyway, the bazooka guy and the mortar guy, they're both really, really useful. And one thing that's real fun to do is to take one of these guys and knock all those over, and it looks like you have someone who's loading the bazooka for you.
Come on! You're gonna get me killed, Lieutenant! I knew you'd get me killed!
So, if you want to make a 2-man bazooka team. So, bazooka guy, mortar guy, pretty useful. With every irrational toy Army Men purchase that I make on eBay, the boulder only grows bigger. However, by pushing it up a hill every single day, I become stronger. And I think I know that now. So, coming even closer to number 1, in the number 3 spot, we're going to have the radio operator. The radio operator is perhaps one of the most important pieces to the battlefield, in all reality, if we're truthfully thinking about it, because one of the most important things that you need to have is a way to communicate when you're on the battlefield, whether it's making targeted airstrikes or calling in that previously mentioned mortar guy to strike a pillbox. he's very, very important, or just bringing down orders from high command. And it's a very, very important piece of any battle. So the radio operator has a lot of really good uses, like I just previously mentioned, and he's pretty stinking important. So anyone who knows anything about military tactics knows that the radio operator and having good communications, good comms, is super important to any battle. So, number 3, radio operator, really, really important. You know, I was saving this spot for generals and commanders and captains and stuff, but then I realized that members of management are inherently useless. Always remember, kids, seize the means of production and make sure to unionize at your local workplaces. Thanks, Upton Sinclair. So, like I said, a lot of these figures go together pretty well, and this is a team that I would always have as I was growing up. So you have the guy with the binoculars looking around, making sure, looking for where to target. And then you have the radio operator who may be relaying orders from the front lines for mortar strikes. And then you have the mortar operator getting ready to pelt some shells wherever they may be needed. So, another guy I'd like to throw in is just some kind of guy like this who may be making some kind of somewhat useful pose to make it seem like there's a guy helping the mortar guy, because mortars typically, depending on how big they are two-person. Like, they need 2 people to operate efficiently. But the Timmy guy usually works just fine on his own. So, here's a real interesting combination that I did when I was growing up. And almost to our very, very end, at number 2, we have the machine gunner. The machine gunner is also one of the very, very important pieces that we have in a modern combat situation. Even today, where most regular combat infantry have fully automatic weapons, the machine gunner is still a really important piece. So, it completely changed the face of warfare. Any of you who know anything about history know that during World War I, the first time the machine gun was heavily used, it completely changed everything. It went to trench warfare because you couldn't really step over the top without getting mowed down. So, one of the first uses of the machine gun was, of course, the Gatling gun in the Civil War, the American Civil War. And believe it or not, it wasn't very popular in the American Civil War. It kicked up a lot of dust. It required a lot to operate. Not only that, but you had to occasionally pour water on it to get it to cool off. So it wasn't really super adopted by the Union Army. However, the British really liked it for the Boer Wars, or even the Zulu Wars. So, during the late 1800s, there was a huge second wave of colonialism that's mostly focused around Africa. So, most of us know the Zulu Wars, if you ever see the movie with Michael Keaton called Zulu, where the British took over Zululand and went to war with the tribe, the Zulu. I've said Zulu a lot. So, they really, really liked the Gatling gun because the Zulu and a lot of other African tribes didn't rely nearly as much on firepower or black powder weaponry. They mostly charged in wave tactics with spears and shields. So the British would just sit there and chew them up with Gatling guns and eventually the very early models of the Maxim gun, which were made by, I want to say, the Browning Company, but I know that's wrong. So anyway, the machine gunner. Super useful, really necessary if you have any kind of a fort or line you're trying to defend.
We'll return after these messages.
I'm the Plastic Commander, and you're watching the Disney Channel. Are you ready to have your socks knocked off, put back on again, and then slowly pulled off by Dan Schneider? Because if you're not, then you're not ready for number 1, the Rifleman. So, arguably the backbone of any modern military today is the Rifleman. Like, you don't really see that many soldiers running around with spears, unless maybe you go to Russia and watch how they're performing in Ukraine. They're getting pretty close to that. But anyway, this is no time for politics. This is time for Army men. So, the Rifleman is one of the most important pieces of any puzzle that you may call your army. And you want to have a bunch of them because it's a really, really important thing that all of your guys have some firepower. Like, think about it. Imagine you work at a bank, right? And 10 guys come in and they all have assault rifles. Like, what are you going to do? You don't get an assault rifle. They have assault rifles. They got plenty of ammo to spare. You're no match. And that is the idea behind any army. You know, to roll in with their rifles, and you have a bunch of guys with rifles. If you just get a bunch of guys, like I have 943 subscribers, if I got all of you guys rifles, and we just, you know, overthrew Bosnia, finally, they've had it too good for too long, we're unstoppable. We're an army. The backbone of any army. So, and the Rifleman throughout history is super important. Like you see, I have plenty of eras here. I have Revolutionary War, we got Civil War, Vietnam, World War II. We got a couple of Marx figures from World War II. Back here, I even have a really cool character from Star Trek. Really cool Star Trek character. I think this is Mr. Spock. I can't be too sure. Yeah, that's definitely Mr. Spock. But yeah, the Rifleman, really important, really necessary. You'll want to have a bunch of them. And arguably, if you ask me, he's the most useful toy army guy.
Wow. That video was pretty bad. And I'm really happy that I don't watch my own content. So anyway, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to also comment that I leave out your most useful army guy. If so, just know that your opinion does not matter. Also, make sure to join my Discord. We have a lot of fun over there. Shout out to all the guys who've joined it. So the link for that is in the channel description, so just a few clicks away. And as always, thanks for watching the video. I'm the Plastic Commander. Bye.
Mission accomplished. Well done, man. Pack it up. We're going home.